The silent world. The twin suns of Meridian 7 painted the sky in shades of amber and gold as Dr. Michael Torres stood at the observation window of humanity's newest research outpost. He watched the alien landscape with eyes full of wonder, seeing possibilities where others might see only rocks and dust. This planet, orbiting a binary star system 200 light-years from Earth, represented everything humanity had dreamed about for centuries. It was a world of discovery, a place where 12 brave souls had volunteered to spend 3 years studying alien geology, biology, and atmospheric phenomena. Michael was the colony leader, chosen not just for his expertise in xenobiology, but for his ability to inspire others during difficult times. At 42 years old, he had left behind a wife and 2 children on Earth, promising to return with knowledge that would change their understanding of life itself. The sacrifice felt worth it every morning when he woke to see those twin suns rising over purple mountains that had never known human footsteps until 3 months ago. Behind him, engineer Lisa Park was running diagnostics on the habitat's environmental systems. She was meticulous in her work, checking every sensor and backup system twice. At 35, Lisa was the youngest member of the team, but her brilliant mind had designed half the equipment keeping them alive on this alien world. She hummed softly while she worked, a habit that had become comforting to the others during their isolation. Commander David Chen stood near the communications array, his military bearing evident even in the casual clothes they wore in the habitat. David was their security officer, though his role felt almost ceremonial. What threats could exist on an uninhabited world? Still, protocols demanded someone with tactical training, and David took his responsibilities seriously. He had served 20 years in Earth's defense forces before volunteering for this mission, seeking one last adventure before retirement. The other 9 colonists were scattered throughout the facility. Dr. Sarah Kim was in the biology lab examining microorganisms found in the planet's soil. Engineers Robert Jackson and Maria Santos were outside repairing a solar panel array. Scientists Helen Wu, Thomas O'Brien, and Kenji Nakamura were analyzing geological samples in the research wing. Support staff members Amanda Foster, Carlos Rivera, and Jessica Thompson maintained life support systems, prepared meals, and kept the facility functioning. They were 12 ordinary people doing extraordinary work, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge one discovery at a time. They sent regular reports back to Earth, sharing their findings with scientists who would spend years analyzing each detail. Their mission was scheduled to last 3 years. But already they had gathered enough data to justify a decade of research. Then the Vorathians arrived. The detection alarm sounded at midday, a soft chime that brought everyone to the command center. An unknown vessel had entered orbit, massive and clearly constructed using technology far beyond human capability. David's hand instinctively moved toward the weapon locker, but Michael stopped him with a gentle touch on the shoulder. This was the moment humanity had prepared for. The reason they had sent explorers into the darkness. First contact with an alien civilization. Michael's heart raced with excitement and fear in equal measure. He activated the communication systems, sending greetings in multiple formats as Earth's protocols demanded. Mathematical sequences, radio waves, light pulses, each designed to show intelligence without aggression. The response came within minutes. The screen flickered to life, showing a creature that made several colonists step back involuntarily. The alien was tall and reptilian, with scaled skin the color of deep ocean water and eyes that glowed with an orange inner light. Its face was angular and sharp, with a prominent ridge running from forehead to neck. When it spoke, the sounds were harsh and guttural, unlike any language humanity had encountered. Their computer systems worked to translate, analyzing patterns and building a linguistic framework. The process took several minutes while the alien watched them, with what might have been amusement or contempt. Finally, words began appearing on their screens, rough translations that captured the meaning if not the nuance. The alien identified itself as Commander Vorath of the Vorathian Empire. His next words chilled Michael to his core. This star system belonged to Vorathian territory. Humans had trespassed without permission. The penalty for such violations was absolute and final. Michael tried to explain that they had not known, that humanity was new to space travel and meant no disrespect. He offered to leave immediately, to negotiate, to establish peaceful relations. Lisa added technical data showing their limited capabilities. trying to demonstrate they posed no threat. David remained silent but alert, understanding with a soldier's instinct that words would not save them. Commander Vorath listened to their pleas with cold indifference. Then he delivered his judgment. The Vorathian Empire did not accept ignorance as an excuse. They did not negotiate with inferior species. They maintained order through demonstration. The 12 humans would die, and the manner of their deaths would be broadcast across local space as a warning. Other species would learn what happened to those who entered Vorathian territory without permission. The alien warship fired a precise shot that destroyed their communications array, cutting them off from Earth. A second shot disabled their power generator, plunging the habitat into emergency lighting. Then Vorathian soldiers descended to the surface in armored landing craft, heavily armed and moving with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. David tried to mount a defense with their single security weapon, a plasma rifle designed for use against dangerous wildlife. The energy bolt struck a Vorathian soldier's armor and dissipated harmlessly. The alien warrior barely paused before striking David with enough force to shatter his ribs. The former Marine collapsed, gasping for air that would not come. The Vorathians gathered all 12 humans in the observation dome where Michael had stood that morning admiring the alien sunrise. They forced the colonists to kneel while setting up recording equipment. Commander Vorath explained in careful detail that every species in the region would see what followed. This was how the Vorathian Empire maintained its dominance. Through fear, through overwhelming force, through the complete destruction of those who challenged their authority. What happened next lasted 3 hours. The Vorathians were methodical, ensuring their cameras captured every moment. They started with David, making the soldier's death agonizingly slow. Then they moved to the others one by one while the remaining colonists could only watch and weep and pray for mercy that never came. Michael Torres died last. Before the end, he looked directly into the camera and spoke his final words to whoever might eventually see this horror. He gave his name. He described their peaceful mission. He told Earth not to forget them, and not to let this crime go unanswered. Then Commander Vorath ended his life with casual efficiency. The Vorathian commander addressed the camera in his own language, words that translated as a simple message. This was the fate of all who entered Vorathian space without permission. Stay away. Submit to Vorathian authority, or face complete annihilation. The alien soldiers returned to their ship and departed, leaving 12 bodies in a habitat that would eventually run out of power and air. The broadcast traveled through space at light speed, reaching relay stations and communication networks throughout the region. Within days, dozens of species received the message. Most had seen such Vorathian demonstrations before. They understood the warning and kept their distance from claimed territories. The message reached Earth 3 weeks later. The United Earth government received the transmission and immediately convened an emergency session. Politicians, military leaders, and citizens watched in horror as 12 of their own were murdered for the crime of scientific exploration. When the recording ended, silence filled the council chambers. Then Admiral Rebecca Stone stood. She was 60 years old, a veteran of Earth's various regional conflicts and commander of humanity's modest defense fleet. Her face showed no emotion, but those who knew her recognized the fury burning behind her controlled expression. She spoke quietly, her words carrying weight that made others lean forward to hear. Admiral Stone gave 3 orders. First, recall every human ship from deep space immediately. Second, cease all external communications with alien civilizations. Third, activate emergency military production protocols across every industrial center on Earth. When asked about diplomatic responses or negotiation attempts, she simply shook her head. The Vorathians had made their choice. They had broadcast the murder of 12 humans as entertainment and warning. They had threatened to do worse if humanity did not submit. Admiral Stone saw no room for discussion or compromise. There was only one appropriate response to such an act, and diplomacy was not it. Earth went silent. The galaxy noticed this immediately. Most species expected humans to retreat in fear, or perhaps send angry messages that would ultimately result in submission. That was how inferior species responded to Vorathian power, but humanity did neither. They simply stopped communicating, stopped exploring, and disappeared behind a wall of silence that made even the Vorathians slightly uneasy. In the darkness of that silence, something was being born, not fear, not submission, but cold, calculated rage that would reshape the galaxy forever. The mathematics of vengeance 6 months passed in absolute silence. The galactic community sent numerous delegations to Earth, offering sympathy, suggesting mediation, proposing various diplomatic solutions. Every message went unanswered. Human ships that had been exploring distant systems returned home without explanation. Trade agreements were abandoned. Scientific collaboration ceased. Earth became a closed world, mysterious and impenetrable. The Vorathian Empire watched this with satisfaction. Commander Vorath received commendations for successfully intimidating another species without losing a single warrior. The Emperor himself praised the efficiency of the operation. 12 deaths had convinced an entire civilization to withdraw from space exploration. It was exactly the result they had intended, but a few observers were not satisfied with this explanation. Ambassador Alara of the Xyloth Confederacy had been studying humanity since their emergence into galactic civilization 3 decades earlier. She had read their history, their literature, their military records from countless wars fought on their homeworld. What she learned disturbed her deeply. Humans were not like most species. They did not evolve as prey animals who learned to flee from predators. They evolved as persistence hunters, creatures who chased their prey for days until exhaustion brought it down. They were social pack hunters who coordinated attacks with terrifying efficiency. More importantly, they had a cultural tendency toward disproportionate retaliation that their own philosophers called mutually assured destruction. Alara tried to warn the Vorathian leadership. She requested an audience with their high command and presented detailed analysis of human psychology and warfare. She explained that silence from humanity was not submission but preparation. She urged them to send an official apology, to offer reparations, to do anything that might prevent the storm she felt approaching. The Vorathians laughed at her concerns. They had 3,000 warships, the most powerful military force in this region of space. Humanity possessed perhaps 200 vessels, most designed for exploration rather than combat. The technological gap was enormous. Even if humans were foolish enough to attack, they would be crushed within days. Alara left the meeting feeling sick with apprehension. She had seen something in human history that the Vorathians had missed. Humans were exceptionally good at closing technological gaps when survival demanded it. They had gone from primitive aircraft to nuclear weapons in 40 years. From basic computers to artificial intelligence in 30 years. What could they accomplish in 6 months when driven by grief and rage? On Earth, Admiral Stone stood in a converted automobile factory where thousands of workers assembled weapons in 3 continuous shifts. Every industrial center on the planet had been transformed for military production. Resources were redirected. Scientists abandoned civilian projects. Engineers worked around the clock designing new systems specifically meant to kill Vorathians. Captain James Wilson walked beside the Admiral, reviewing production schedules on a tablet. James was 48 years old, a special operations veteran who had been recalled from retirement for this mission. He had spent the past 6 months training assault teams for operations unlike anything humanity had attempted before. "The fleet will be ready within 2 weeks," James reported. "We have 240 ships now, all retrofitted with the new weapon systems. The experimental technologies are performing beyond expectations in simulations." Stone nodded slowly. "And the crews? Every volunteer. We had to turn away 3 times as many applicants as we could use. Everyone wants to be part of this." "Good." Stone stopped walking and looked directly at James. "You understand what we're asking of you. This is not a military campaign in the traditional sense. We are not trying to conquer territory or force surrender. We are sending a message that will echo across the galaxy for centuries." "I understand, Admiral. The Vorathians killed 12 of ours. We are going to kill millions of theirs. It is not about proportional response. It is about making certain that no species ever makes this mistake again." "Exactly." Stone resumed walking. "Some will call us monsters. They will say we overreacted, that we are no better than the Vorathians. Let them say it. What matters is that after this, no one will dare harm a human without understanding the consequences." The message went out 8 days later, transmitted simultaneously to every known species in the region. It was brief and direct, signed by Admiral Rebecca Stone on behalf of the United Earth Government. The text was simple enough that translation software could not misinterpret its meaning. "To the Vorathian Empire, you murdered 12 humans and broadcast their deaths as entertainment. You threatened to exterminate our entire species if we did not submit to your authority. We reject your threats. We reject your authority. We reject your existence. Consider this a formal declaration of war. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on your civilization, because we will show you none. Commander Vorath read the message and felt something he had not experienced in decades: uncertainty. The wording was unusual. Most species declared war by listing grievances and demanding justice. Humans simply stated their intention to destroy Vorathian civilization. There was no negotiation offered, no conditions presented, just a promise of destruction delivered with absolute confidence. He brought the message to Warlord Krath, Supreme Commander of Vorathian military forces. Krath was ancient by Vorathian standards, having led their warriors for over 60 years. He had crushed 43 different species during his career, establishing Vorathian dominance through overwhelming force and tactical brilliance. Krath read the human declaration, and his eyes narrowed. This is not the language of a prey species. This is predator language. Mobilize the fleet. I want battle groups positioned at every entry point to our territory. If humans are foolish enough to attack, we will destroy them before they reach our colonies. The Vorathian fleet moved into defensive positions, confident in their numerical and technological superiority. They expected human ships to appear within days, probably attempting some desperate assault that would end in complete destruction. They prepared to broadcast that defeat as thoroughly as they had broadcast the massacre on Meridian 7. But humans did not appear. Instead, Vorathian military installations began exploding. The first 27 bases were destroyed within a single hour. Coordinated strikes hitting targets across 6 different star systems simultaneously. Vorathian commanders scrambled to understand what was happening. Their sensors showed no attacking ships, no energy weapons, no warning of any kind. Bases simply exploded, structures collapsing as if struck by massive kinetic impacts. One Vorathian scientist finally understood. Asteroid bombardment. The humans had spent months positioning thousands of small asteroids near Vorathian installations. They had given these rocks tiny thruster adjustments, sending them on slow collision courses. Vorathian sensors designed to detect ships and energy weapons had completely missed the slow-moving rocks. Now those asteroids were being accelerated to enormous speeds and dropped directly onto military targets. It was simple. It was elegant. It was devastatingly effective. Krath ordered the fleet to hunt down human forces and destroy them before more damage could occur. 3,000 Vorathian warships spread across their territory, searching for an enemy they could finally engage in proper combat. They found nothing for 3 days. Then they detected human vessels near the Korvath system and moved to intercept with overwhelming force. Admiral Stone watched the Vorathian fleet approach on her tactical display. 1,500 enemy warships against her 240 ships. By traditional military calculation, this battle should last less than an hour before human forces were completely destroyed. But Stone had not come here to fight a traditional battle. All ships execute dispersion pattern Omega. Activate full stealth systems. The human fleet scattered in different directions, each ship activating technologies the Vorathians had never encountered. Adaptive camouflage made them nearly invisible. Advanced heat sinks masked their energy signatures. Electronic warfare systems confused Vorathian targeting computers. Within seconds, the human fleet had vanished from Vorathian sensors. The Vorathian fleet slowed, uncertain. Where did they go? Warlord Krath demanded from his flagship. Find them. His forces spread out across the system, searching desperately for an enemy that had simply disappeared. That was exactly what Stone wanted. Target their command ship. All missile batteries fire on my mark. Human vessels uncloaked directly behind, above, and below the Vorathian flagship. Before the aliens could react, 1,800 missiles launched from concealed positions. These were not ordinary weapons. They were equipped with artificial intelligence that allowed them to communicate with each other, coordinate attack patterns, and adapt to defensive responses in real time. The first wave of missiles struck Vorathian point defense systems, which destroyed them efficiently. But those missiles had transmitted complete data about defensive capabilities to the second wave. The second wave adjusted their approach, finding small gaps in the defense grid. The third wave exploited those gaps. By the fifth wave, missiles were getting through in significant numbers. Warlord Krath's flagship took 47 direct hits before its shields collapsed completely. The ancient warrior had just enough time to realize he had vastly underestimated humanity before his ship exploded, taking 3,000 crew members with it. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Varathians had lost 412 ships. Humanity lost 9. It was not a battle. It was a massacre that the Varathians had never imagined possible. News of the defeat spread across the galaxy within days. The mighty Varathian Empire, feared by all, had been utterly humiliated by a species that had barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Ambassador Alara watched reports of the battle with sick horror. She had warned them. She had tried to make them understand. Now millions were dead, and the killing had only just begun. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session, calling for immediate ceasefire and peace negotiations. Admiral Stone's response was delivered personally via recorded message. Her face filled screens across the galaxy, showing neither satisfaction nor remorse, only cold determination. We appreciate the Council's concern. However, there will be no ceasefire. There will be no negotiation. The Varathians established the rules of this engagement when they murdered 12 unarmed scientists and broadcast it as entertainment. They wanted to send a message about Varathian power. We are simply sending a reply about human resolve. This war ends when the Varathian Empire no longer exists to threaten anyone, not before. Captain James Wilson led his special operations team through the corridors of a captured Varathian supply station. His mission was simple in concept but horrifying in execution. Locate and destroy the central coordination hub that managed Varathian military logistics across 3 sectors. The station was defended by 5,000 Varathian soldiers, elite warriors who had never known defeat. James had brought 60 humans. The odds should have been impossible. But humans fought differently than any species the Varathians had encountered. They used tactics the aliens found incomprehensible. Ambushes from unexpected angles. Psychological warfare that exploited Varathian pride. Weapons specifically designed to penetrate their armor. Most importantly, humans refused to quit. Varathian soldiers were brave when victory seemed likely, but retreated when faced with certain death. Human soldiers kept fighting even when surrounded, even when wounded, even when their situation was utterly hopeless. They fought with a ferocity that the Varathians found terrifying. The battle for the supply station lasted 18 hours. James lost 23 of his 60 soldiers, but he accomplished his mission. The coordination hub was destroyed, throwing Varathian military logistics into chaos across multiple sectors, and he sent a message that echoed through Varathian command structure. Nowhere was safe. No installation was secure. Humans could strike anywhere, anytime, with devastating effect. The war continued for 8 months. Human forces attacked with relentless precision, targeting military infrastructure, shipyards, command centers, and supply lines. They avoided civilian populations when possible, but made it clear that any facility supporting the Varathian military was a legitimate target. The Varathian Empire began to collapse. Their economy crumbled under the strain of constant warfare. Their military, once feared across the region, was reduced to scattered remnants trying desperately to defend core worlds. Their government fractured as different factions argued about whether to continue fighting or seek peace. Commander Vorath, the officer who had led the massacre on Meridian 7, watched his civilization fall apart around him. He commanded one of the last intact battle groups, positioned to defend the Varathian homeworld. He knew the humans would come eventually. This was where the war would end. He gathered his remaining officers for what he understood would be a final briefing. His voice was steady despite the fear he felt. The humans are 3 days out. Admiral Stone is leading the fleet personally. Our government wants to surrender. What are your orders, Commander? Vorath looked at faces that showed exhaustion and terror. These were not the proud warriors who had terrorized the galaxy for generations. They were broken soldiers who had learned too late that humanity was not prey to be hunted, but predators who hunted back. I am going to surrender, Vorath said quietly. This war is my fault. I killed their people. I started this nightmare. Perhaps if I accept responsibility, they will spare our homeworld. The silence that followed was heavy with grief and shame. The Varathian Empire that had stood for 8 centuries was ending, not with glorious battle but with quiet surrender, all because one commander had made the fatal mistake of underestimating humanity. The new order. The surrender ceremony took place on the bridge of Admiral Stone's flagship, the Resolute. Commander Vorath stood in restraints before the human admiral, his scales dull with stress and exhaustion. Behind him through the massive viewport, the Vorathian homeworld hung in space, scarred by bombardment but still intact. Stone had specifically chosen not to destroy the planet. That was not the message she wanted to send. Vorath spoke in careful English, words he had practiced during the journey to this meeting. I am yours to judge. I accept full responsibility for what happened on Meridian 7. I murdered 12 humans. I started this war. Do with me what you will. Stone studied the alien commander in silence. She had spent 8 months thinking about this moment, imagining what she would say to the creature who had ordered the deaths of 12 innocent scientists. She had expected to feel satisfaction or perhaps anger. Instead, she felt only weariness. Do you understand what you have done? Stone asked quietly. Vorath hesitated, then nodded. I killed 12 humans and brought destruction to my people. No. Stone's voice hardened. You destroyed an empire that stood for 8 centuries. You killed millions of your own people. You turned your entire civilization into a cautionary tale that will be told across the galaxy for thousands of years. Those 12 humans you murdered are martyrs now. Dr. Michael Torres, Engineer Lisa Park, Commander David Chen, and the 9 others. Their names will be remembered forever. Your name will also be remembered, but as the fool who taught the galaxy to fear humanity. Vorath felt those words like physical blows. What will you do with me? You will stand trial on Earth. You will face the families of the people you murdered. You will testify about everything that happened. Then you will spend the rest of your life in a human prison thinking about the consequences of your actions. You will not execute me. Vorath was surprised. Death would be mercy. Stone replied coldly. You need to live. You need to see what becomes of your empire. You need to watch your people rebuild under human supervision. You need to understand deeply and completely the cost of your arrogance. Vorath was taken away to a holding cell. The Vorathian government officially surrendered hours later, signing documents that would reshape their entire civilization. The terms were harsh but not impossible. Complete military disarmament, human occupation of key strategic worlds, reparations paid over a century, oversight by a human administrative council that would ensure the Vorathian Empire never again threatened peaceful species. The final casualty count was staggering. 8.7 million Vorathians had died during the 8-month war. Their military was completely destroyed. 17 colony worlds were occupied by human forces. The proud empire that had dominated this region of space for generations ceased to exist. All because they killed 12 humans. Ambassador Alara arrived at the Resolute 3 days after the surrender. She had been sent by the Galactic Council to formally acknowledge what everyone already knew. Humanity had fundamentally changed the balance of power in this region of space. The Council was offering humanity a permanent seat in galactic government, a position usually reserved for ancient species with thousands of years of civilization. Alara met with Admiral Stone in a conference room overlooking the Vorathian homeworld. The 2 leaders sat across from each other, representatives of very different approaches to power and diplomacy. The Council hopes this marks a new era of cooperation. Alara began carefully. We believe humanity can provide valuable perspective on maintaining peace and security. Translation. You are afraid we will attack someone else. Stone said bluntly. Alara did not deny it. Yes, Admiral. Frankly, the galaxy is terrified of you. You have demonstrated capabilities we did not know were possible. You have shown a capacity for violence that exceeds any species we have encountered. The Council believes it is better to have you inside the system than outside it. We will accept the seat, Stone said. But understand this clearly. We will not participate in your tradition of letting aggressive species do whatever they want. If we see another civilization committing atrocities like the Vorathians did, we will stop them, with or without Council approval. I understand, Alara replied quietly. And honestly, Admiral, I think that might be good for the galaxy. The Council has been too passive for too long. Perhaps humanity's directness will encourage us to actually enforce our own laws rather than merely discussing them. After Alara departed, Captain James Wilson entered the conference room. He carried a tablet containing final reports from occupation forces throughout former Vorathian territory. The transition was proceeding as planned, though not without difficulties. Some Vorathian factions were resisting, still clinging to dreams of their former power. Those groups were being dealt with efficiently but not brutally. Stone had been clear that occupation should be firm but fair. "James," Stone said without looking away from the viewport, "do you think we did the right thing?" The question surprised him. Admiral Stone rarely expressed doubt about strategic decisions. He considered his answer carefully before responding. "We responded to mass murder with overwhelming force. We destroyed an empire that had terrorized dozens of species for centuries. We established a precedent that will prevent future atrocities." He paused. "But we also killed millions of people, most of whom had nothing to do with what happened on Meridian 7. So I honestly do not know if we did the right thing. I only know we did the necessary thing." Stone nodded slowly. "That is the burden we carry now. History will judge whether we were heroes or monsters. Perhaps we were both." She turned to face him directly. "Make sure our occupation forces understand something critical. We are not conquerors. We are not oppressors. We are here to ensure the Varathians never again threaten peaceful exploration. Every soldier under our command needs to remember that distinction." "Understood, Admiral." James hesitated, then asked the question that many were thinking. "What happens now?" "We have achieved our objective. The Varathian Empire is broken. Do we return to peaceful exploration?" "Eventually," Stone replied. "But not immediately. We need to maintain forces here for at least a decade to ensure the transition succeeds. And we need to make certain every species in the galaxy understands the lesson. Harming humans has consequences. Catastrophic consequences. On Earth, memorials were being built for the 12 colonists who died on Meridian 7. Their names were carved into stone monuments in every major city. Schools were named after them. Their families received honors from grateful governments. The entire human species mourned their loss and celebrated their memory. But there were also protests. Millions of humans had marched through city streets demanding an end to the occupation, questioning whether 8 million deaths could be justified as response to 12 murders. Peace activists argued that humanity had become the monsters they sought to punish. Religious leaders debated the morality of proportional versus overwhelming response. Admiral Stone addressed these concerns in a recorded message broadcast globally. She stood before the memorial in Geneva, her uniform pristine but her eyes showing the weight of command. "To those who question our actions, I understand your concerns. I share many of them. We killed millions to avenge 12. That mathematics seems horrifying until you understand what we were really fighting. We were not just responding to a single massacre. We were ending centuries of oppression. The Varathians had committed similar atrocities against 47 different species over 300 years. They broadcasted these murders as entertainment and warnings. Every time the galaxy did nothing, species would file complaints, demand justice, and ultimately accept apologies because they were too afraid to fight back." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We broke that cycle. Yes, we used overwhelming force. Yes, millions died. But now every aggressive species in the galaxy understands something they did not understand before. Humanity will not tolerate attacks on our people. We will not accept apologies for murder. We will not be intimidated by threats. If you harm humans, we will make you pay a price so catastrophic that no one will ever make that mistake again. Is this justice? Perhaps not. Is it necessary? Absolutely. Because the alternative is a galaxy where the strong prey on the weak forever, where scientific exploration invites death, where peaceful species live in fear. We have changed that equation, not through diplomacy or negotiation, but through absolute demonstration of what happens when humanity is pushed too far." The broadcast ended with images of the 12 colonists who died, their faces smiling in photographs taken before the mission. Dr. Michael Torres examining alien plants, Engineer Lisa Park laughing at a joke, Commander David Chen playing chess with colleagues. They were not soldiers or warriors. They were explorers and scientists who died for the crime of seeking knowledge. Commander Vorath watched this broadcast from his cell on Earth awaiting trial. He finally understood what Admiral Stone had meant about becoming a cautionary tale. His name would forever be associated with the greatest military disaster in Varathian history. Children across the galaxy would learn about his mistake in history classes. "Do not attack humans," teachers would say, showing images of Vorath and the destroyed Varathian Empire. "They will destroy you." The trial lasted 3 months. Vorath testified about everything that happened on Meridian 7, describing in detail how he ordered the executions and why. He claimed he was following Varathian tradition, demonstrating strength through violence. The prosecution countered that tradition did not justify mass murder of unarmed civilians. The families of the 12 victims attended every day of the trial. They sat in the courtroom watching the creature who killed their loved ones. Some wept, some showed no emotion at all. All of them had lived through 8 months of war knowing their grief had sparked a conflict that killed millions. When the verdict came, it surprised no one. Guilty on 12 counts of murder and numerous war crimes. The sentence was life imprisonment without possibility of release. Vorath would spend the rest of his long life in a human facility, a living reminder of the price of underestimating humanity. As Vorath was led away, one of the victims' families approached Admiral Stone. It was Sarah Chen, daughter of Dr. Michael Torres, who had died last on Meridian 7. She was 18 years old, about to enter university to study xenobiology like her father, Admiral Stone. Sarah's voice was steady despite tears on her face. "Thank you for getting justice for my father and the others." Stone looked at the young woman and felt grief settle heavily on her shoulders. "I am not certain we achieved justice. Justice would be your father alive, continuing his research, sending you messages from an alien world about the wonders he discovered. All I did was ensure that his death had meaning, that no other scientist would die the way he did. That is justice enough," Sarah replied quietly. "My father would not want millions to die for him, but he would want his work to continue safely. He would want other explorers protected. You gave him that." After Sarah left, Captain James Wilson found Stone standing alone in the courthouse corridor. He had been present for the verdict, representing military interests at the trial. Now he looked at his commander and saw something he rarely saw: uncertainty. "We won the war, James," Stone said softly. "We destroyed an empire. We sent a message across the galaxy. But did we do the right thing? Will history remember us as heroes or monsters?" James considered the question carefully. "Perhaps we are both, Admiral. Perhaps that is the nature of war. We protected humanity by demonstrating overwhelming force. We saved future lives by making an example of the Vorathians, but we also killed millions who may not have deserved death. History will debate our choices forever. All I know is that when other species look at humanity now, they see strength and resolve. They see a civilization that cannot be intimidated or threatened. That protection was purchased with Vorathian blood, and I suspect your conscience will carry that burden forever." Stone nodded slowly. "Yes, it will. But if that burden prevents even one more massacre like Meridian 7, then I will carry it gladly." 5 years after the war ended, the Galactic Council formally adopted new protocols regarding first contact and territorial disputes. The regulations were clear and uncompromising. No species could claim territory without proper surveying and notification. No species could execute civilians for peaceful exploration. Violations would result in immediate intervention by Council peacekeeping forces backed by human military power. The protocols were informally known as the Meridian Accords, named for the planet where 12 humans died and changed the galaxy forever. Ambassador Alara had championed the regulations, arguing that the Vorathian War demonstrated the need for clear rules and enforcement mechanisms. Not everyone agreed with the new order. Some species resented human influence. Others feared that humanity would use their military superiority to dominate galactic politics. But most recognized that the galaxy was safer now. Aggressive empires thought twice before attacking peaceful explorers. Weaker species had protection they never possessed before. Admiral Stone retired from military service 7 years after the war. She was 67 years old, tired beyond measure and ready to let someone else carry the burden of command. At her retirement ceremony, she spoke briefly about what the war had meant. "We lost 12 people on Meridian 7. In response, we killed millions and destroyed an empire. Some call this justice. Others call it atrocity. I call it a message. A message that humanity will protect its own with absolute commitment. We are explorers and scientists, artists and philosophers, but we are also survivors and fighters. We hope never to fight another war like this. But if we must, if someone else makes the mistake of attacking peaceful humans, we will respond the same way, overwhelmingly, remorselessly, completely." She looked out at the assembled crowd, seeing soldiers who fought in the war, civilians who supported the effort, and families who lost loved ones both on Meridian 7 and in the conflict that followed. "We carry the memories of 12 names. Dr. Michael Torres, Engineer Lisa Park, Commander David Chen, Dr. Sarah Kim, engineers Robert Jackson and Maria Santos, scientist Helen Wu, Thomas O'Brien and Kenji Nakamura, support staff Amanda Foster, Carlos Rivera and Jessica Thompson. They went to the stars seeking knowledge. They died because they met a species that valued power over understanding. We ensured that their deaths had meaning. We ensured that no other humans will die the same way. That is our legacy. The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for all who died in the war, human and Varathian alike. Then life continued as it always does. Humanity returned to exploration, but now other species welcomed them with respect rather than contempt. The stars still called to human curiosity, but now that call was answered with confidence earned through sacrifice. Commander Vorath lived for another 32 years in human captivity. He spent those decades writing memoirs that detailed Varathian culture and warned his people never to repeat his mistakes. His final words before death were simple. I killed 12 humans and destroyed my entire civilization. Let my name be remembered as a warning to all who would attack those who explore peacefully. The galaxy learned its lesson. Humanity had demonstrated that they were not prey to be hunted, but predators who would hunt back with devastating efficiency. The price for 12 human lives was millions of alien deaths and the complete destruction of an empire. It was a mathematics of vengeance that echoed across the stars for generations. And somewhere in the ruins of Meridian 7, 12 bodies still lay in the observation dome where they died. Eventually, human recovery teams would return to bring them home. They would be buried with full honors on Earth, their names forever carved in stone as martyrs who changed the galaxy. They had gone seeking knowledge and found death. But their deaths ensured that future explorers could seek knowledge safely, protected by the certainty that humanity would avenge any attack with absolute commitment. That was the price of 12 lives. That was the message sent across the stars. That was the new order of a galaxy that had learned to respect humanity's capacity for both exploration and destruction. The story ended not with triumph, but with somber reflection. 12 names remembered forever. 8 million lives lost in response. An empire destroyed, a galaxy transformed, and humanity standing as both protector of the weak and warning to the strong. Never again would peaceful exploration invite death. Never again would aggressors assume humanity would submit to threats. The lesson was clear and written in blood across multiple worlds. Harm one human, pay with millions. It was not justice. It was not proportional, but it was effective. And in a galaxy where strength determined survival, effectiveness mattered more than morality. The 12 colonists of Meridian 7 had wanted to study alien life and learn about the universe. Instead, they became the catalyst for changing how the entire galaxy viewed humanity. Their peaceful mission ended in tragedy. But that tragedy sparked a transformation that protected billions of future humans who would explore the stars. Their legacy was written in stone monuments and galactic law. Their names were taught to children as examples of courage and sacrifice. Their deaths were avenged with overwhelming force that reshaped civilization itself. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, their message echoed forever. We came in peace. We died in violence. But those who killed us learned that humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive, and humanity will always, always make you pay the price. The end.